When you have confidence in someone or something, you can count on it. And having confidence in your hunting gear is critical to our overall success as a hunter. So what's it take to develop that confidence? Well, now let's just have a talk about that. Pull up a chair, adjust your volume just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your hosts Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gillian. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Elk Camp. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy the show tonight. And for those blue collar hunters who've been grinding it out all week with us and following our show, welcome back to Elk Camp. Joe, Chav, everybody's here in the house tonight to get things started. I understand the shout outs are going to be something we do every week to help all our grinders out there.
Yeah, that's right. But you know, it's funny because when we did that last week, it just threw me back. I might be showing my age, but you remember Hee Haw, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember Hee Haw.
Yeah. And I mean, as a kid, you know, my dad loved Hee Haw, and now I kind of look back at it and I was like, maybe it was for other reasons, but
right.
You know,
I wouldn't know what that is.
But you know, it was those shout outs that they did, you know, to the small towns across the United States. And as I started looking across all those different places, and what I do is I look at our podcast, and when it comes out, we take a look at who's been checking it out right away that week and hitting the top of the list, and then some of those cool names down there. And I just thought it'd be awesome, man, if we did that shout out. And we don't do the hee haw, but or salute. Remember?
Yeah. For those of you that are new, with the show, I'm the host of the show, Gilbert Ornelas. I'm here live here out of Houston, Texas. We got Joe Gillian in the house and Leroy Chavez out of Cimarron, New Mexico, and we're going to tee it up for you guys and talk about all of our elk grinders that are out there from different cities. And Joe, I'll let you lead us off.
Yeah, so some pretty cool places out there to the grinders. Topping the chart this week, the home of the Rodeo Hall of Fame is Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to give them the Thanks for listening, guys.
Also home to Olympic gold medal gymnast Shannon Miller from Edmond, Oklahoma.
Who spent a lot of time training down here in H-Town.
Really, huh?
Absolutely. It's a big hotbed here for
awesome.
all the gymnasts.
And
for next up, from the Liberty and Independent State in Wilmington, Delaware. We appreciate you guys listening to us for sure.
Oh, awesome over there. From the Beehive State, formerly known as the greatest snow on earth, in Woods Cross, Utah.
And good looking out, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't had a burger at Karen's Custard, then you haven't been there. A big shout out to Smyrna, Tennessee.
Yeah, it's just right off Nashville. They say that's like becoming like one of the top places in the U.S. Over there. Never heard of Smyrna before. So I think that's really cool. And I'm going to give another shout out because, you know, we talk about getting reviews and ratings and stuff like that. And we had a review that popped out from Jim in, it was Jackson Hole, Wyoming, you know, and gave us a lot of positive feedback. And Jim, we appreciate you leaving that rating for us, leaving that review. That's really classy, and hope more of you guys do that. So guys out there, please, whether you're on our YouTube channel, whether you're here on Apple Podcasts, whether you're in Spotify, please subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to have that. We'd like to do some things where we can actually go live on YouTube. In order to do that, we've got to get those subscriptions, because until we get 100 subscribers on there, we're not able to go live.
Absolutely, Joe. So, we're going to get into our substance of our show tonight. So let's talk about equipment confidence, Joe. As guys and gals are drawing their tags now,
Right.
a lot of people are thinking about equipment and gear.
Yeah, sure. A lot of people are, I mean, I bet you guys right away are working on that Christmas list, right?
Absolutely.
So, guys are either readying what they have, they're either adding to what they have, or for those newbies that they don't have any clue what they need. For you guys just starting out, they're asking, they're looking for information, they're borrowing, they're buying stuff for the first time. So, it's equipment and gear right now that a lot of people are thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. What do you feel like are the main factors for feeling confident in your equipment, Joe or Chav? Either one of you, y'all want to lead it off?
Well, if you have confidence in your equipment, that kind of takes away the worry, of the equipment that you have, because you can just get out there and do what you're out there to do, and that's to hunt. If you have to worry about your equipment, then that puts a little damper on things. And we're talking about the whole gamut here, from the bow all the way down to socks and just about anything you could think of. We've experienced some malfunctions with equipment before, so we know it's real important. And your first time out, you may leave some real important stuff that you may need, big time.
Yeah,
and at the same
I like to keep notes. I like to keep notes on the things that I've left behind that have caused me a little pain and frustration, right?
Yeah, well, that's just it. Maybe us talking right now.
Yeah, so, on my iPhone, I got a place here that it says notes, and it's full of stuff like that, right? I put notes in, note to self, don't be stupid and forget your pillow.
Well,
something like that.
All these years, I can remember, dude, when we first started out, didn't have boots to hunt in snow. We were grabbing gear from our in-laws, and we were out there in boots too small, too big. And, so having the right stuff is important. So I think one of the main factors to being confident, and really when you talk about confidence in equipment, you're comfortable, man. You just have, when you feel solid with, everything, no matter what the gear is, when you feel solid about that, you have just that mentality out there. You just feel like you're lit up and you're ready. You know what I mean?
Having what you need is paramount,
exactly
right.
Having what you need, that helps meet the task at hand.
That's exactly you. And when you talk about the things, you got to have what you need that meets the task at hand. And so I want to tell those people, I know there's a lot of new hunters out there that they're going, well, what do I need? I don't want to, right now you guys are listening and you can't sit there and write notes real quick on that. So if you want a basic suggested equipment list, just email us at info@elkbros.com. Just ask that you're new to elk hunting, you'd like a list of equipment to start with out there, and we'll send that your way. So just send that to info@elkbros.com. And understand that, there's going to be stuff that you need that are important, and we're going to talk about importance of stuff in a minute. But Chav and I, man, what we have now is from years of different things that we've done. And we didn't start out with stuff in the beginning. It's just one of those things that you come with the girl that came with you, know, and, so there's a lot of stuff that we may do.
Yeah, I think familiarity with your gear is paramount too, to having confidence with it, right? Not being serial number one or first time you use it when you get out there in the field, and trying to be comfortable with
That's huge.
Right, yeah.
That's huge. I mean, if you were to go out there, because, Chav, with a new release, right?
Yep.
Can you imagine you just pulling out a release and getting out there and
Yeah,
I think he found out when he was chasing them little piggies that it's a little bit different.
So do you remember the first day shooting that thing?
Yeah, I sure do. I wasn't even sure which way the release went,
right.
And we're shooting a completely new setup for me. I got to be confident. I started shooting about what, 2 months ago already.
Right.
You know, I'm not shooting a whole lot. You know, I'm trying to get stronger little by little in small increments. But yeah, you know, getting used to the release, getting used to the new sights, everything's different.
Yeah, and you know, guys that I take out when I'm guiding them, number one reason a lot of times that guys have trouble, struggle, end up missing an opportunity is they're just not familiar with their equipment. I'm talking rifle hunters and bow hunters.
Yes, sir.
I really believe, and I'm gonna get all this hate mail now, but I think bow hunters are generally more familiar with their equipment. There's, you know, I've had a lot of rifle hunters that will show up having bought a new gun, bought new loads, you know, never shot them out of that gun. And yeah, I mean, I've had it happen that way. And
me too. I've had guys show up to bow camp and, you know, hunting down here in Texas, and they got a brand new bow and a brand new setup, and they've never shot it before. And,
yeah,
and my rancher's going, no, we ain't making pin cushions out of my animals out here.
No, and
you're going to spend half a day shooting that thing and getting familiar with it, or you ain't going hunting.
And the thing too, you know, during transport, you can bump your sights or you know, other parts of the bow, and it's not going to shoot the same way. So you need to actually shoot it when you get to camp. Make sure.
Bet, Chav. You know, you and I, we ride 4-wheelers or mules or horses or whatever it may be, and it's real easy when you're traipsing through the woods to make a little slip, ding your sight. I mean, especially if you shoot sights and releases, easy to cut a string down. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen, and if you don't shoot your bow when you get to camp, everything's different. You know? I've been shooting at a total different altitude for 9-10 months, you know, and I get up there at 10,000 feet and things are different, right?
Yeah. Oh, we found that out just going down, right? So, I mean, it happens both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know, being comfortable, so from being familiar and comfortable with what you have, and when you have that comfort zone with your equipment, man, you walk, talk, and act totally different. I mean, you just, it's like you guys have seen, like, I've bought equipment, right? You buy new pants every year, or you buy a new pack, and it happens every year. I buy a real nice pack that I want to try out, and then when it comes down to crunch time, I look at that Badlands pack of mine that I have with those side pockets, and I just am so comfortable with that that, you know, I end up leaving that other thing and grabbing the stuff that I have had in the past that have worked for me. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I even have a what I call my killing kit, you know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, that stuff that I wear.
You know, when you know your points of failure and you try to eliminate them, they make you more confident, you know, and you know what didn't work last time, so you work in perfecting what works better next time.
So that's huge.
So we can help them.
You got to know if you can get familiar with your equipment, identify possible points of failure, or get out there and use that stuff. And that's why we talk about hunting.
Yeah, I mean, case in point, one of our Venezuela Mafia brothers, you know, he had a little mishap, never shot with a glove on. Our Canadian brother, Steve Tucker, had the same thing happen. They never hunted in super cold weather and used a release with a glove.
Right.
You can't feel the pressure you put on that release if you got a glove on your your trigger finger. And each one of those guys sent one sailing out into the stratosphere. And they're like, oh my gosh. I think it was either Manano or Luis this past, you know, on a reunion hunt down there, the same thing happened. He went to draw on a hog and he's using a new release. He's not using a wrist strap. He's using a thumb release. And man, he went to boom, and he sent one clean out in the woods to never be found again. Right. So it is paramount for you to be very, very familiar with your equipment.
Yeah, and I mean, and we don't want arrows flying through the woods too, unaccounted for, you know. Right. So that's. Well,
you got to see that firsthand with Tucker.
Oh, yeah. I was there.
90 yards over a elk's back, and like, what was that?
You know, I never. Very seldom do I ever pass on a bull, and we've talked about it in the past. The only reason that generally I'll pass is when I get that bull close on the first day, and I got another 10 days of hunt, and I don't want to go home. You know, I want to keep hunting. So, but man, I tell you what, that Tucker had that bull walk in front of him, and you've been with me and killed beautiful spikes. You've killed smaller bulls. You killed a real nice bull. All of them trophies, but
Every one of them.
To watch Tucker have that 360 bull walk in front of him and send one sailing over the back, that was special.
That was special, Tucker.
Yeah, if we'd summarize that, we basically said 4 things that you need, the 4 main factors to feel confident in your equipment. We said that you need to have what you need to meet the task at hand. You got to be familiar with it. You got to be comfortable with it. And that familiarity is what helps you to have that comfort. But comfort sometimes comes from, it's like having that lucky rabbit's foot in your pocket. You've just used it year after year, and
That's
it's
right.
just like your buddy and your pal. And then 4th was knowing your points of failure and then eliminating them. So
all of that goes into building confidence in your gear.
Exactly, right. With your equipment.
All of that goes into building confidence with your equipment.
That's exactly right. And so if you look at all 4 of those things, one of them is figuring out what you need, make sure you have it, right? Those other 3 all relate because it's all about using it. It's all about checking it out, taking it apart, putting it together, finding out the weaknesses, finding out the strengths. And if you have areas that start, you can wear a pair of boots and you can wear them the first day, you can wear them the first week. And sometimes them puppies don't start creaking and popping until you start getting out in rocks and wearing them for about 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
Having things in your pack that start creaking and making noise, that drives me nuts, man. I'm a silent freak. So
yeah, I bought a pack a few years ago that I really, and I use it now, but I had to modify it quite a bit because it had some Velcro on it, and Velcro don't belong in the woods, guys. I'm going to tell you that straight up, unless you're using it to bind something to take out of the woods. But hunting, it just doesn't belong. It makes too much racket.
Yeah, we end up throwing tape on zipper ends and stuff like that so they don't rattle and hit. And you can always tell hunters that create equipment because they start rubberizing those type things and making it stuff like that. So
Joe, do you feel like you need new gear to be confident?
I've always thought about, I always remember my dad saying that most fishing lures out there catch more men than they catch fish.
So, I agree. Mm-hmm.
And, the latest and greatest is always good. But, when we're talking as blue collar elk hunters, 2 blue collar elk hunters out there, there's a lot of things that you can get by with. You hunt with what you have. You buy that bow, that's an investment. And, if you're going to invest in something, you got to invest in your bow, your arrows, and your broadheads, because if that's not right, nothing's going to die.
That's right.
Know what I'm saying? So,
yes, sir.
That has to be there. But at the same time, there's a lot of great deals out there. There's always people that are stepping up to new gear that are trying to unload their stuff, and you can get some quality stuff out there. Just being part of a bow group, getting on some of the forums that they have out there, and guys are trying to sell their stuff. So does it have to be new? Well, I looked at a photo the other day of one of my hunts, and a lot of times if you can see my feet, in my hunts, I've worn, my favorite thing to wear was running shoes when I hunt. And
comfortable.
Yeah, well, they were comfortable.
Quiet.
Yeah, they were quiet. Unless you had bad weather, they were real good. And when I first started out, it didn't really matter. All of this equipment, I was hunting on a budget and just to get out between license and stuff. So if my feet got a little wet, they were going to dry out. Then I started adding Gore-Tex socks to that combination. Didn't have to worry about that. And I was still comfortable. When other guys were complaining about their feet hurting, I didn't have that issue. I still kind of do something where I'll hunt with boots, when it's wet and muddy in the morning, and I'll put on my tennies in the afternoon. That's just how I like to hunt. I feel like I'm putting the Mohican sneaking on them when I have my tennies on them, so.
Yeah.
So I didn't have new stuff then. And, I'd put out that Christmas list and hope to get something that would make life a little more comfortable. But, you know, there's some things that you can just, I mean, our dads did it, you know,
Yeah.
without that stuff.
Yeah. You know, Joe, I've spent a lot of time fishing and hunting, and I don't hunt with a brand new Matthews bow. My bow's 6 years old. I just found the receipt for me buying my first helium in 2013.
Right.
And I'm still hunting with that bow, and I'm killing things left and right with that thing. So I don't necessarily think you got to have new gear. I fish. I've been on, you know, many fishing teams. You can see right here, Kistler Rods is right there. I've been fishing his rods since 1998. And I have some rods that I still fish with today that are from 1998, right? And they're as good today as they were before.
Works, bro, why get rid of it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm hunting with the same bow that I've been hunting with for, I don't know, 12 years. But it's hard for me. I'm actually getting manufactured out of existence here because I'm a finger shooter. I shoot instinctive, no sights, and my bows are 42, 44 axle to axle, which used to be short.
Longbow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be short at one time.
It used to be short.
And now it's a longbow.
Yeah. So
it's real long compared to what we shoot today.
Yeah.
But, you know, my wife and I are getting ready to have our 37th anniversary. You find something that works, you stick with it. That's how I am with it.
When I quit killing things, I'll make a change, right? But at the end of the day, you know, it's bad medicine on elk and everything else that gets in front of that bow of mine. So I think a lot of it has to do
aluminum today, bro. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be shooting aluminum today.
It's a love-hate relationship, people.
There's nothing wrong with getting new gear if you can, you know. But do you have to have it? Is it going to make you? Let me just tell you, if it makes you more confident, if you think getting that new whatever is going to up your game and that's going to give you a mentality, then do it. Right. You know, I mean, same thing with sports teams. We used to say that, you know, they perform like they look sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's just about mindset. If you're comfortable, familiar, and you're solid with stuff that you have, you don't have to go changing it. If you think that and you don't have confidence in something, then it's time to change it. So now you got to start looking for stuff like that.
Joe, let me ask you a question.
All right.
Let's say you had to list your most important top 3 pieces of gear to be confident in, and then rate them 1 to 3, 1 being the most important.
Right.
What would they be?
Yeah, well, so I think I sent this question out to all of us, so I know all 3 of us have thought about this a little bit. And I think we're going to start with our number 3 here, because I thought it was real interesting that, you know, when you talk about pieces of gear that you have to be confident in, first of all, let me ask you, Chad, what guided your decision, your thought processing on that?
On number 3?
Well, on actually identifying those.
Okay, well, first of all, since I'm shooting a new bow,
right,
and using a release and everything else, that was going to be my top 3. And then, of course, probably the worst experience I've ever had hunting was.
Well, let's not go into the other stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I just want to know. I want to know the process. You know, so when you did it, did you say, "Okay, I got to know what is it I have to be comfortable, or what is it I have to be able to kill?" Or, in other words, what was y'all's basis for the top 3 things that you picked?
Mm-hmm. Well, I wanted to make sure that I was confident when I got on the field that I would kill something. And I want to make that good hit, you know, and it's going to take practice. And then with a new bow, it's different too. So, you know, now I have a different draw point.
So,
you know,
on your list, what was your number 3?
Mine?
Yeah.
Mine was socks and boots.
Socks and boots. Socks and boots. Now, Gilbert, what was your, you're giving a thumbs up on those socks.
Absolutely, man. Right? 100%.
So what was the thinking process for you, Gilbert, in trying to decide your top 3?
Well, for me, man, it's all about being comfortable, Joe. Right. And my top 3, if you start at number 3, mine was my bow setup, bow, arrow, and broadhead setup. Right.
So,
and go ahead.
So you have bow actually your first one, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have it your third, and
It
I
is.
actually have my bow as my number one too. And so my thought processing, so we can kind of compare, I was thinking that there are the things that I am not able to do without if I plan on killing an elk. So
Right.
what are the three things that I could not do without in order to kill? And you have third is your bow, right?
Yeah, my bow and arrow set combination setup with, that includes broadhead and arrow.
Right, exactly. And I have bow as number one, and you had bow as number one. You said
Right.
because
Well, it's a new bow. Plus, can't kill anything with your hand.
I don't know, Gilbert's got some grip.
You got to shoot. You got to have something to shoot. So
Gilbert's
I don't
got
know
a
if I
grip.
can run them down, but if
Yeah.
I could hold them, I can get 'em.
I think if it came to, if we went hunting the way we're dressed today,
Right.
if we used the wind right, basically, and found some cover in the shadows, all we need is a bow. I mean, we're scented, we stink, but with the wind right and everything else, that's why I said bow as my number one.
Well, and I said that as my number one too, is because when I grab that bow, and I always pull for you guys that are out there, before I even step into the woods, once I'm heading out of camp, I always pull that bow back just to get any creeks out, just to make sure we're all good to go, kind of like a pre-flight check. But man, once I put that bow in my hand and I start stepping into those woods, it's like something comes over me just with that bow in my hand, man. And I heard, I think I was listening to Born and Raised the other day, and Trent and Cody were talking about the difference between hunters and killers. And, man, when I put that bow in my hand, I'm a killer.
Yeah,
just
but
how
again, it goes back to having confidence in that equipment, right?
Sure.
You've been hunting with it for a long time. You understand it. It's really your top priority in having that system. It's been a proven system for you.
Right.
I can't tell you how many guys that I encounter at a bow shop or somewhere, and they're like, man, I'm going out west. I really have no idea, what to shoot, what arrows to shoot. And all I can tell them is what I've been successful with and what I've not been successful with.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And truthfully, it's been a lot of heartache at times to get to where we're at. Right.
Definitely.
Now I shoot a 31-inch draw bow. So it's a hammer. It's like yours, Joe. I mean, it produces 89 to 90 pounds of kinetic energy. That's enough to hunt a Cape buffalo in Africa, right? So the bow has everything it needs to do what it needs to do to produce the energy it needs to kill an elk. So I needed to give it something to shoot out of, right? So we shoot a full metal jacket and I shoot a cut-on contact broadhead. When I started doing that, things started dying. It didn't start wounding them. It started killing them.
That's so funny because I've been hunting for so many years and where my skill set is. And I've had guys come up and ask me, so what's your KE? Dude, I'm not no scientist. So guys ask me, what's your KE? And I was like, killing elk?
Yeah. About 95%, son.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So, no, and the only reason why I know those numbers is because the bow shop that I deal with, they work those numbers up for you, right? It's a formula. You math guys out there and you nerds, y'all can figure that stuff out. For us simple country boys, we just know it's a lot. And if you couple it with the right ammunition, you're going to get the job done.
Yeah.
So it's important to me. But for me, when you take a look at number two and
what's number
one,
2 for you?
Number 2 for me is my GPS and my light source, right?
And Chab, you had GPS.
I had GPS also.
Okay, all right. Now you just threw that in, Gilbert. GPS and light source. You like,
because it's all in one. It's all a compact, right? So it's a twofer.
It's a twofer. Huh? So you don't carry an extra light?
I carry 3 extra lights.
Okay.
Joe. case
All right.
one goes out.
Yeah. So he was just trying to show me how efficient he was. I was like,
Ain't
you know
nobody
what?
want to be in the dark in the bare woods, Joe. I'm telling you. There's
So you
critters out
guys,
there that eat folks.
you and Chad both had GPS, and GPS did not make my top 3, and I would probably say the only reason is because I hunt my country that I know so well.
Yeah.
And however, I will tell you that I know it so well because of my GPS use in the past, plus the fact that if I was going to someplace I didn't know, it would be huge.
So
But
how much? What if you rated it when you came down to Texas pig hunting? Where was it? When I
Oh,
dropped you off down there on that river.
yeah. That and snake gators were 1 and 2. So,
Yes, sir.
but that GPS it has totally changed hunting for all of us and for a lot of people. I think it's taken away a little bit from people learning some skill in the woods. They rely on it so much, but again, if you're going to have confidence in that, you better also make sure that you know its points of failure and you're ready for that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you need to be proficient in compass, right? I mean,
And battery.
I have a compass in my pack. Yeah, and extra. If you're gonna carry something that's batterized, I mean, you better have extra batteries.
Well, and now most people's GPS now, because we're all OnX fans, most people's GPS is their cell phone, and then that cell phone. If you're out there, a point of failure is that battery, you can turn off that Wi-Fi and that data, and your GPS works just fine, and you're going to save that battery more during the day. And
it adds extra weight in your pack, but you can put an external battery
charger
pack with
right.
it. Yeah.
And I always carried extra batteries for my GPS and my lights and stuff. So, I guarantee you should have an extra charger for your cell phone, because that thing, you get stuck out at night. Most of the guys are going, well, he's got his GPS, he's going to get back.
Right. Well, Joe, I also had / wind checker, right?
Right.
For me, elk hunting is so important.
Huh? You were slashing.
It was a GPS / wind checker. So the wind checker is a big deal for me. I mean, I guess you can always use a little bit of dirt. You Tiger Woods it and throw it up in the air or whatever. But for me, that chalk is huge, because we're checking the wind so often when we're making.
No, the wind is everything. But and I saw your wind checker thing, and I'm like, I carry 2 bottles of wind checker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
I think we all do. Yeah.
Yeah, but
the
like
cool thing on OnX now, it has prevailing wind where you're at, so it'll actually show you in the app which way the wind's blowing now.
Sure.
Did you know that, Joe? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's awesome. It kind of gives you the things that are happening. But at the same time, when I was thinking about, again, if I'm saying they threw me out with 3 things to be able to kill an elk, my 3 things were my bow was number 1. So my number 2 was my calls.
Yep.
Because like Chav said, I could go out there dressed as I am right now. I could find a way to camo myself up. I can tell when the wind's in my face, but calls change the game for me. So my grunt tube, man, I could be a mile from camp and realize I forgot my grunt tube. I'm going back.
I could easily replace GPS and wind checker with my calls,
right.
when you think about it. But if I'm going out in the elk woods, I'm not going to not have my GPS and my calls, right? So,
right. Yeah. But so then
ahead,
we go to your number 1, Gilbert.
Yeah, my number 1 for me is boots and rain gear. So listen, I've had some extremely tough hunts. At one time I weighed 335 pounds. We were at 254 this morning. So, and dropping. So when you're that size, your feet take a whipping, right? Where we hunt, it's very unforgiving on your feet. And the dew in the mornings are generally very wet. And if your feet get damp and you don't wear a good pair of socks, you're going to get blisters. And there is nothing worse than having foot trouble when you're putting 12 to 15 miles a day in with guys like Joe and Chab that are track stars in the mountains, right? So for me, having a great pair of boots that are waterproof and that have great support is paramount. And my feet, if I can keep my feet good all week, I'm gonna be real salty to deal with when I get the opportunity.
Well,
and
you
then
had
my
boots or
rain
socks
gear.
on yours, didn't you too?
Yeah, I had a real bad experience with the socks getting wet.
Uh-huh.
And like you said, blisters just form automatically. And, I have two pair of boots that I really like. They're lightweight and they fit just right. They were waterproof at one time, but over time, I guess they lose that ability.
So you went to boots before I did. I mean, you used to wear tennis shoes along with me, but I noticed that you actually invested in boots way before I did.
Yeah, I think 'cause I have small ankles, so I was afraid of rolling them. And because it seems like you have rubber band ankles, because I've seen you twist it all the way around and still keep on going, and I wouldn't be able to do that.
Right. Yeah.
And
So
as I get
go ahead.
as I get older, now I need a little bit more support. My ankles, and of course the knees.
Yeah, and I'm not going to bogart this information from anybody. I wear a pair of North Face pack boots that are very lightweight. I can actually bring one on the show and show you the exact boot that I wear. And then I wear a pair of Mondels as well from Cabela's. Those are two of the finest pair of boots that I've ever worn. But I was so impressed this year by the North Face boots. I bought two more pair of them. So when these go bad, I got two more in stock. They just fit so well, and they're so light, and the soles are so soft. They don't make any noise when you're stepping on rocks and stuff like that, but they're so comfortable.
I know Chav has this thing about socks, man, because we almost have to bring another truck just to bring all the socks that he brings.
Me too, Chad. So look, I wear two pairs a day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon.
Yeah.
My feet, I have to take care of my feet. I'm serious.
Yeah, about a dozen waterproof socks, and to double ensure that my feet weren't going to get wet.
Oh, and on that, for you guys out there, when he says that he bought those waterproof socks, you can go to Amazon and you buy those cycling waterproof socks.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were, right?
Yeah.
Cycling socks.
A whole lot more inexpensive than buying some of that other gear, and they're more comfortable because they're made for bikers for comfort.
Yeah, it's a soft. The material is kind of soft, so they fit just right.
And they do keep your feet good and dry.
Your feet are dry.
Yeah. So
that builds confidence in being able to make the miles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that your feet are going to be fine, so we can go make the miles, and our feet are going to be dry, and they're still going to be sore and everything, but you're going to take care of your feet. All day.
And I recommend the guys have more than one. If you're going to wear boots, have more than one pair so you can change them up. Just change from one boot to another. And like I said, I do the tennis shoes, and I find guys in boots have a whole lot more sore feet than I ever did wearing tennis shoes out there. So even though it didn't look like I had much on my feet, I was pretty comfortable. So
I've been looking at some of the new Solomon or whatever tennis shoes. They're pretty cool, and they're waterproof as well. I tried on a pair, and it's not wide enough, Joe. My wife made a comment a long time ago. My feet are so wide, I wear a quadruple E. She said, I just don't need the shoe. I just need the box and put laces on it, and it'd be all right. So for me, it's about comfort.
My number 3 that I think we've covered all 3 of y'all's there.
Yes, sir.
But the one thing that I put down is my my clothing. So that's my my camo layers, my gloves, mask, gaiters, and rain gear. I put all of that in one thing there, and like I said, I'm a silent freak. I just hate to be making any kind of noise. People watch me when I go into any of those sporting goods stores, and first thing I do is I walk up and start rubbing shirts together, start rubbing pant legs together. And if I can hear a shushing noise out there, man, it's not something that I'm wanting.
No shower curtains. Manano, you hear that? No shower curtains.
So I just, everything that even, from my head netting, and because I do like to camo my face, so I wear a spandaflage, but it sticks, it stays tight. I don't ever hear any flapping or anything like that. I don't want my pack shoulders to make any kind of noise when I'm drawing, because if I'm in tight and close, if I feel like I'm silent, it totally changes the game when I'm pushing in close to an animal. I don't worry about drawing and having that animal identify me and spot me out just because I'm making noise. So, I mean, it just gives me a whole feeling of security, and I feel like that. I don't know, that killer out there, man. I feel like I can get up on anything like that. So all of that. And my rain gear, I don't plan on wearing rain gear very long. It's always been a poncho, and it does make some noise. I've tried to get some that don't, and they're just not always waterproof. They're water repellent. So
most of the time when it's raining that hard, we're hunkered down anyway, Joe.
Yeah, that's all I do, man. I find a place. I get everything covered, my equipment, my bow with that poncho, and I just hunker down and wait it out, unless it's those days where you have those constant drizzles. But then I just like to get in trees and hunt from tree to tree and let that kind of keep me dry,
Well, I guess it's kind of one of my pet peeves. I just hate being wet, and I got a good pair of rain gear. I spent the money on some good stuff, and I had it in camp this year. You even commented on how quiet it was.
Right. No,
and, it was some T50 stuff made by Cabela's, real good camo pattern, very light, packable gear.
Right.
So when we talk about confidence, yeah, it does. It works for me. And when we talk about confidence, I had that gear with me on my pack when Chav and I got so tight into those bulls this year. I mean, we actually had bulls within feet, not yards. I'm talking about feet of us. And if we weren't silent and our gear and our equipment wasn't silent, we would have never got a bull to play ball with us in that set. They'd have blew us out of there so fast that we'd have been scratching our heads and went, what was that, right? But our gear was silent. We were silent. We worked the wind, everything. And I know I have confidence in every piece of that equipment that we used because it worked,
Right.
So that's how we develop confidence.
Except for your tent, right?
We're not talking about tents today, Joe. It's not even on 1, 2, or 3. So let's move on. Go, Luis.
Yeah. I think we talked in our podcast. I don't think we mentioned by name. We said we had a friend that ended up with more water in his tent than outside of his tent.
That ain't my tent no more. It's Chav's, and I'm bringing it.
So let's do this now. Since we know that having confidence in stuff is identifying possible failure points and eliminating them, I think we ought to talk about some of the different kinds of equipment. Again, you guys out there that you really are not sure about what kind of equipment or what your equipment list is that you should have if you're new to this, again, just email us, info@elkbros.com. We'll gladly send you a list of equipment, a basic equipment that you should have out there. But in looking at some of these, let's talk about failure points that we've had with some of these that other people, we can help them avoid. And I'm going to start out first with my weapon, and that is my bow.
Great choice. Yeah.
Because there's some things that you can do that can end up busting you out there. I like my bow. Again, I'm a silent freak, so I do a lot of stuff with camouflage moleskin in areas, any place that an arrow can come off and tap my bow, I've got it covered so that I don't end up with that noise tapping at the wrong time. Don't want that happening. I don't want, any creak from drawing back. I don't want any squeak from drawing back. I'll tell you this, a huge one is watching out for mud getting inside the grooves of your pulley system, of your cam, because I've seen it happen, and it's happened to me where you get mud in that groove of your cam and you go to pull back and it rolls your string right off that cam, and it blows everything up. So
Yeah, for me, Joe, and I'm lucky because I've got an extra bow.
Mhm.
I always bring a backup bow, and
Right.
if I cut a string down or something, like we're not real close to the nearest archery shop, right?
Right.
So it's really important for me. I don't care what it is. If it's your old bow you shot 15 years ago. At the end of the day, you're still elk hunting, right? You're not wasting 2 days going to wherever you need to go to a bow shop to get either your
Sure.
bow restrung or not. And then look, a lot of some other guys could shoot your bow in camp too if they have bow issues, right? So we had that happen a couple years back. Had a guy bow that just didn't want to act right and had to get mine out. Chav had a incident a couple years back where his bow blew up, and it was not easy, having that thing come apart.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, it's critical in that. I'll tell you another area. Something is binos. Uh, I've seen guys that a good friend of mine actually had his binos hanging off the front of his neck there, and went to go shoot at a bull, and his string caught his binos and blew everything up. So, it's a
Really
good
no for
idea.
me.
Right.
Really a no for me wearing binos on my chest. If I carry my binos, it'll be in my backpack. Uh, I'm not wanting them on my chest unless I'm guiding. If I'm
Correct.
guiding and I don't have, a bow with me, then I'll have them on me. But
Rifle
I
hunter,
don't
no
want them.
problem.
Yeah,
You
right,
know,
right.
that's no problem. And there's some guys that they might if you practice with it and you don't have any issue, but I'm just telling you, you got to be careful of stuff on your chest. I like to
Yep.
keep things on my chest as clear as possible. You can
Okay.
take some of those compacts and you can actually stick them in your uh,
Call
your
pocket.
well, you can put it in your pocket, but you can also put it underneath your shoulder strap of your pack right here on
Oh
your
yeah.
chest. It'll
Yep.
like actually fold right around it, and it makes it real accessible.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Yep.
curious about the new the Grunt tube holder that has just come out. Exactly where is it located? Because that's a pretty Grunt tubes are pretty big,
Right.
and I would think that would somehow interfere.
No, so check it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure anything that you have like that, get out there and wear that stuff on the range and
Well, if you're
check it.
going to wear it, you better shoot with it.
You better
Right.
shoot it.
And you're pre-planning and you're pre-shooting and everything. You need to be shooting with the gear on that you're gonna hunt with.
That'll go with your rangefinder too. Make sure you can tuck it away somewhere where it's not going to get in the way.
And
Yeah, a lot of guys have them on a retractable system where they can, pull it up, range, and let it suck back into that deal. I mean, however it is for me. For me, it goes in my front bellows pocket. It's where it always rides, and I'm generally ranging a few things in front of me, and then if I get an opportunity, I'll pull it out. If not, I pretty well got it narrowed down if he's in within 40 yards.
we talked about the release. I don't ever have to worry about, I told you in the past, I think the reason that I shoot instinctive bare bow, no sights, no releases, because
Nothing can go wrong.
yeah, I just keep it as simple as possible. Even if I forget my shooting glove, I can shoot with my fingers. So,
Yeah.
but you guys have a whole different thing to worry about. So let's talk about pins and sights. Some of the things that you've come across that other people, advice you could give them for points of failure on that.
Keep it simple. For me, having too many sights having too many pins can really confuse you if you're not understanding red, green, yellow. All the different colors can really confuse you. I had a bull that RC Knox called in for me. Joe helped get him fired up, and that bull came in at 41 yards, and he turned and walked directly to me. But in my infinite wisdom of bow hunting, I kept thinking he was at 41 yards. And when he turned broadside at 19, I used my 40-yard pin to shoot at him, right? And it's just it made me want to go to just one pin, right?
Right. Yeah.
So for me, it was about familiarizing myself with the pins that are on my bow and cutting them down. So only hunt with 4 pins now, Joe. I mean,
yeah, and I know some guys that only go 3. I think are you at?
I think right now I think there's 6 right now. I would like to cut it down a little bit.
Right, because that puts a lot of stuff in front of you.
Yeah, you got to start calculating. Okay, which pin?
Yeah.
But going back to what you alluded
Some guys
to.
have to use 6 if they
Yeah.
want to shoot out to 50, 60
Yeah,
yards.
but that's,
They don't have that poundage and everything else to make it flatter, you know.
But as far as the going back to the release, you already touched on it a little bit.
Yep.
You know, I'm shooting without gloves right now, and as I get closer, I'm going to have to use some gloves because it does get real cold in the morning.
Yep.
And my hands get really cold in the morning.
Right.
So I'm going to have to adapt to the touch.
But I can't have anything on my shooting finger, and that's my own personal preference. For you, you might be able to be proficient at shooting with a glove on.
Well, and I ask those guys
it.
out there too, what do you do? What happens? You got to be ready for things like, I mean, things that are going to go wrong out there. What happens if all of a sudden your peep sight's not, you know, where you can look through it because it's got twisted, the tube did something freaky, it got ripped off. I mean, you got to be ready for those type of scenarios like that and not let it freak you out at the time.
Yeah, and if that's happened, if you use a tube on your peep sight, just carry extra tube in your backpack. It's very light and compact, and you can always make that adjustment out there, right? And
well, yeah, you can, but what if you go to pull back on a bull and all of a sudden you don't have,
you know what I'm
saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's happened to me. It's happened to me whitetail hunting, and when that happened to me, I had a guy that was really smart bow hunter, and he told me exactly how to make that go the way you need it to go. And when you get to full draw, and let's say that thing breaks, what he did was he showed me how to use my nose and go up there and manipulate the peep sight to get it to exactly where I need it so I can see through it. And I'm telling you right now, it worked. If my peep sight turns now, all I got to do is get my nose up there and turn it, and it's perfect every time.
Right.
So, but if you don't know to do that, you're dead in the water, right?
Yeah.
You can't see through your peep sight. But I promise you, get your nose up there and push on it, it's going to get to where you want it to be.
Right. So those are things to think about. Like that's even like I said, how important my calls are for me. You know, there's points of failure with those. I mean, I've been out there, and if you don't take care of them, if you don't put them in the right kind of case, or you've been using them a lot and they get warm, and after a while that latex starts to stretch a little bit, you can go to make a cow call and all of a sudden it sounds like a goose. So, you know, yeah, you make sure that you always have, you know, extra reeds with you. It's kind of like those scent checkers. I always carry the extra reeds with me and know how to take care of them. You know,
it's kind of like a good handgun, Joe. Better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, man. I've never had a handgun, but you know,
you don't live in H-Town.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I have another point about the release too. I noticed. Well, I have small wrists, so when I put my release on, it goes to the very last hole. Now, when I put a glove on, it doesn't do the same thing. It goes to the second to the last hole. So there's a little change there already. So it's important that you do practice when you start using the glove. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
You know, going back to camo clothing too, because you know, there's so many different things with base layers out there, and again, you know, for you guys that are just starting out, some of that stuff can get a little bit daunting. But you know, if I wear one layer underneath, that could be and some days I don't even need that, because I know once I get moving that when your mornings are cool, you're going to put on more clothes than you need. So whatever you put on in the morning to warm up before you head out, take off a layer and leave it, because you're not going to need it, or put it in your pack for later that evening if you're staying out all day. You know, we have a lot of times when we leave in the dark and come back in the dark, but so you might need it at that time. But, you know, I really like some of the merino stuff that's out now. This is the first year I've worn some.
It's soft. Quiet.
Well, it's warm and it's cool, and just its odor resistance. I really like that. But, you know, until this year, I've never used it. You know, if it got cold, I did a layer of poly or something like that. But it was most important. I like fleece. I like different types of products on the outside. So you just have to be ready to layer. So you have that under. You're going to have that shirt on top of that a lot of times you're going to come down to, and maybe a light jacket on top, and you get those 3 layers, and you're pretty well set. But make sure that it's not too tight, because an area of failure is whether you're using the rifle or the bow. When you get something that's too tight and you try to get those arms up there and you get bound. I always check and make sure I have really, really good room in my shoulders and everything flows and I'm comfortable. So
one of the things I wanted to say real quick before we end tonight is about arrows and broadheads. I think it's really important for guys that shoot the lower poundage bows to understand. And when I'm talking about lower poundage, I'm talking about 60 pounds, 65 pounds and less. It's really important for those guys to shoot cut-on contact broadheads.
Yeah, we don't do mechanicals for elk,
right.
Man.
I've seen firsthand what some heartbreak with some of those, and it wasn't because that the equipment's not good. It's because the equipment that's shooting it's not enough to absorb the energy that it absorbs. Right.
Well, mechanical is doing exactly what it's made to do. It's made to go in and expand, and it'll open up inside that animal and not give you 2 holes. And when it comes to an elk, 2 holes is what you want. So that's one thing.
A good cut on contact broadhead is huge. I shoot a heavy arrow. I don't shoot carbon. I shoot a carbon infused full metal jacket arrow.
And I shoot the carbon, and I'd shoot an aluminum if I had to.
Right. And look, I mean, the heavier the arrow, the more penetration you'll get. 9 times out of 10, I shoot a 100 grain broadhead. I shoot a Bloodsport Wraith, or I shoot a Muzzy Trocar. Those are the 2 heads that I use. Been very successful. Killed a lot of pigs, a lot of whitetails, and a lot of elk with them. And I wanted everybody to understand that those are the 2 main things in my setup that drive the killing part. Not just the bow and my release, but that arrow and broadhead combination is lethal on good shot.
Yeah, I don't know why people would get all that great equipment and not ensure that they have a real solid broadhead on there, because that's the business end of what you're doing, and it's got to get that clean, responsible kill. You need that solid broadhead on there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, Joe, it looks like we had an awesome show tonight. Got a lot of content talked about. We look forward to our next subject in our Confidence series. It's going to be about hunt strategies.
Hunt strategies, right?
Yeah, and guys, remember to subscribe. We don't mind if you throw us a 5-star rating, right? And good luck to all those that are out there still waiting on their draw results.
Yeah, there's still to come for a lot of those.
Yes, sir. So until next time, y'all keep grinding it out with us, and we'll see you next week here on the Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Yeah, we look forward to giving shout outs to you. So get in there, rate, review, subscribe. Good night, y'all.
Good night.